Welcome to the WuBlockchain podcast. For the latest blockchain and crypto insights, please subscribe to WuBlockchain on YouTube and follow us on Twitter. Stay informed and join the conversation. So guys, welcome back to our channel. Today, let's welcome Andrea here with us. Andrea is the CEO and the co-founder of Wynd Labs. Welcome, Andrea. So today we're gonna ask you about some questions because I know that your project has like huge development recently. So could you give us a brief introduction about yourself, how you get involved in this project, and how is this project about?
Yeah, absolutely. More than happy to. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. Means a lot. A bit about myself. My name's Andrej. I was actually working on a PhD before this. My PhD was in applied math, and more specifically, in an area called computational physics. While I was working on my doctorate, the pandemic started, actually, and I found myself with a lot of free time. And with that free time, I ended up starting a company that was focused on web scraping infrastructure solutions. And the way that worked was we set up these big servers in data centers and allowed customers to use those servers for scraping the web. But as we grew to over 1,000 customers, they started asking me a lot of questions like, hey, how do we use, like, do you have a solution where we can actually use residential devices and residential networks to scrape the web? And at the time, I had no idea how to do that. And then I learned that really big companies around the world, like Walmart and other Fortune 500s, were actually using real people's devices to scrape the web. And they were distributing these networks by sneaking SDKs into free applications like Roku TV screensavers or NordVPN. Uh, I really didn't like this. There's a huge ethical issue there. And around that time, I met my two co-founders currently of Grass, and we decided that we, need to work on this and solve this big ethical issue. What we never thought was going to happen, though, was for the entire field to basically explode with the development of AI.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
and yeah, and what, yeah, now, the scope of the project, it 10x multiple times since we started working on it. And I guess to quickly give some background on what Grass is, it's a network that anyone can opt into with one click. And by joining the network, you're basically renting out some of your resources, like your CPU and your bandwidth, to be used to scrape the public web at scale.
So I think not all our audience have the engineering or the computing background, not all of them are familiar with the AI technology. So could you give like a very simple explanation about the your core like technology about the live context retrieval, LCR, and how this technology is changes the way AI models interact with data.
Definitely.
Especially comparison to maybe do some comparison about the traditional data training like ways.
Yeah, definitely. So the way I'd explain LCR is, imagine you're having a conversation with someone and you bring up a topic that they're not fully updated on. Maybe they just didn't read the news or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then that person, instead of giving you outdated information, they go on their phone and they look up the latest details, and then they give you a more accurate response. That's basically what LCR does, except instead of for people, for AI models. So in simple terms, LCR allows AI models to access and use real-time information from external sources like the internet when they generate responses or when they make decisions. This means the AI model isn't limited to what it learned during its initial training.
Mm-hmm.
So often when you train a model, if you give it a lot of static data, and then you ask it a question about something that happened today or yesterday or something that requires more up-to-date information, it cannot answer that question. But LCR, you could think of it as this engine that you connect the AI model to LCR, and all of a sudden it can access the public internet and answer questions. Gives the model the ability to answer questions about anything. And the model is run by millions of nodes, basically. So like, millions of nodes join the network, and LCR is run on top of all of them.
Yeah, because as far as I know, that OpenAI cannot have the access to the instant informations online. And I mean, they have this like human intervention about the A when they train the AI models. So they will relabeling everything that they response. So I don't know if it's a similar way or it has no human intervention at all.
Yeah, there's no human, I guess, tampering with the network. It doesn't rely on any human response. It's 100% automated. And then after mainnet, it will also be 100% verified on a public ledger. So you can guarantee to a certain extent that none of the responses going through the Grass network are biased, and none of them are being tampered with by the network.
So have you ever considered about or you worry about some the informations online that AI might not, I mean, like translate like in the right way? Might be some violence informations or someone asks stupid questions. I don't know. Do your team do some like prevention about those kind of like accidents or problems?
Yeah, so every user of the Grass network is fully KYB'd and has to follow a certain level of compliance procedures. Like when I say user, I'm talking about the customers on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, those would be the AI models. Now, in terms of the data that's actually being accessed, right now, any AI model that wants to access the internet, it is limited to using search engine results.
Mm.
Now, the problem with search engine results is that they're filled with advertisements, and the information that shows up in the first page, it's good for humans, but it's not good for LLMs.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite poor. There were a few studies that OpenAI published where
Mm-hmm.
they showed that, in many cases, 40% of queries were using 1% of the data. That just tells you how much of the data isn't that valuable.
Yeah.
Now, LCR is like the really cool thing about LCR is the fact that because all these nodes are verifying every transaction in real time, you can actually see that none of the data that's being returned to the model is optimized for anything other than knowledge and syntactic similarity, or like semantic similarity, I should say. And that's probably one of the most exciting things and like one of the biggest key differentiators for this network.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the another like topic. Your choice of the layer one chain Solana. Because I just want you to know why you choose Solana instead of Ethereum or other EVM chains.
It's a great question. So we did consider basically every chain and evaluated them quite a bit. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, Solana is just the most performant blockchain. It's the fastest and it's the cheapest. And as an added bonus, it has a great ecosystem that we can potentially work with. Uh, Now, Grass is a network that does a lot of things. It needs the ability to process millions of web requests every minute. And if we were to launch Grass on any other blockchain, this would become very expensive very quickly. And it wouldn't be great for end customers of the network, people that are using LCR, because it would make LCR very expensive. And then it would be very difficult to compete with companies like Google.
Yeah, so I think the price is your you prioritize the price. That is your priority when you
and speed.
consider and speed up. Okay. Oh, so did Solana give your team or your project any other supports? Or the community being supportive?
Yeah, they've been incredibly supportive. We've been talking with Solana Foundation for 2 years now, actually.
Mm.
And from day one, they've been huge advocates for our project, and we've been very happy with the level of support they've shown us.
So, do you have any like interesting stories you want to share with our audience how the team build up, or is there any like difficulties when you pushing the projects move forward?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the I would say the most difficult thing that we encountered in the early days was explaining to people what exactly grass is.
Oh, really?
So,
Why?
well, because at the time, nothing like this existed, really. Like a network where anyone can join and share their resources for scraping the web.
Mhm.
And we were essentially creating a new category at the intersection of crypto and AI. And we did that at a very funny time for crypto and AI because we started working on this after FTX collapsed and before ChatGPT. So it was like a 2 month
That's
window.
awkward. Timing is awkward.
Yeah, very awkward. It was a 2 month window, and it was the worst time ever for crypto and for AI, and to be a crypto AI project. And at the time, we were also trying to raise a pre-seed from a number of investors, and a lot of them were asking us who would ever use this, and we were saying, oh, one day there will be this huge market for AI, and they
Mm.
said, okay, maybe in 20 years or something. Um, and anyway, we ended up finding backing from some incredible groups, and they believed in us very early on. We're very, very grateful for that. And, that was probably the hardest time for us to also hire people and kind of spread the vision, but it's gone quite a bit better since then, I guess, from an environment perspective for both of those fields.
Yeah, I think because last year, I think also this year we have worked with a lot of like AI, also crypto projects too. And well, I think AI is well really hot narrative about, but I think those days, I don't know about you and your team, but I feel like it's not that hot as the earlier of this year. So what do you think about this?
I think AI goes through phases. AI was hot in the 80s, then cold in the 90s, for example. It was hot in the early 2010s, except it had a different name. They called it data science, right? Um, we're not, I wouldn't say we're concerned with like which narrative is hot in a certain moment. Like I said, we started working on this before ChatGPT. Like we weren't trying to chase a narrative or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we like to think of things in terms of what's not going to change 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
Mm.
And on that time horizon, you actually end up filtering out a lot of noise. And the answer to that question, what's not going to change in 5 to 10 years, is the fact that new information will always need to appear on the internet, and AI models will always need the ability to access that information. And the fact that this is actually impossible to do without a distributed network that is capable of doing this from anywhere in the world. And that's what we're building. So for us, like, if an AI narrative is hot or cold, it really doesn't matter because what we're building is necessary even outside of AI or even outside of like crypto, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective, what you just said. So let's talk more about the LCR. So how does LCR handle privacy concerns when retrieving live data? Is there any risk about this, the user's privacy?
Yeah, so there's no risk at all. Grass nodes actually have nothing to do with user data or user browsing history or anything like that. The node is literally just using a little bit of CPU and a little bit of bandwidth. Um, so yeah, like the only data being accessed is actually not on the person's computer, it's on the internet. And the person's computer is kind of like a node that's just routing the web request. So yeah, there's no personal data concern. And um, I guess to further the point, we've also completed audits with 3 different groups. One of them was public on our website. We actually finished a review with Team, which is the leading cybersecurity platform for these types of applications.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me more about some major what you think the great like user cases for real-time data. So in what way the LCR can benefit industries outside of the crypto, maybe in financial markets or predictive modeling or any other like examples?
Yeah. So in terms of the access to real-time data, the way I would think about that is every Fortune 500 company in the world is going to be using AI in some capacity a few years from now.
Yeah.
And every single use case requires access to the most recent information in some capacity. So if you're, for example, a company that sells, if you're an airplane company, um, you need a good understanding of supply chain in real time. And you're going to need data from the internet from all over the world in order to justify certain types of decisions. Beyond travel, if you're an e-commerce company like Target, for example, or even Amazon, you need the ability to scrape the entirety of all of your competitors' websites and know all of their prices in real time. Like Costco, for example, they know what the price of every single item on Amazon is every single day. And in order to do this with LLMs or with AI in the future, they will need access to platforms such as LCR. And yeah, so like I would say the use cases, like they're very agnostic to any individual field, because in the next few years, every single field using AI is going to need some kind of access to real-time data. But yeah, to your point, um, predictive analytics in financial markets, like that's also a very huge application of LCR. And a number of leading hedge funds have actually approached us and have been asking us to participate in the closed alpha for LCR.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of like teams are doing like similar technologies. So what do you think compared to your competitors, what your biggest advantages are?
So Grass has built something that, okay, well, when you say competitors within the crypto space, I don't think there's any other solution that's able to do what
Yeah, I was
Grass
thinking, I just want you to say, is there any competitors right
does.
now?
In the crypto space, not that I'm aware of. I am expecting a number of protocols to, to see what Grass is doing and see how important it is, and probably try to emulate the same thing. But to date, I haven't seen any that are doing that successfully. Um, Outside of crypto, though, I'd say the biggest competitors to Grass are the 2 companies that are able to crawl the entire internet. Um, I won't name those 2 companies, but they're very big, and I think listeners have an idea of who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And there are 2 key advantages, right? Like one of them is an ethical one.
Mm.
Grass is actually owned by its users. Every decision is made by users, and it's fully democratized. So instead of having a centralized company that promises, oh, we're not doing anything unethical, everything is recorded on a public ledger that is immutable, and people can actually verify this. They don't have to just place blind trust in an individual party. Now, the other advantage, it's a technical one. Grass is able to do something that none of these other companies are able to do. because it's powered by millions of nodes, it can actually access any website faster than them and in a more unbiased manner. And because it doesn't have the overhead and the need to take some kind of spread like the way a centralized company would have to, it's able to actually monetize the network and by prioritizing the page ranking system based on how valuable the information is for an LLM instead of how valuable it is for advertising. And that's actually a huge advantage because if an LLM is asking for data, it doesn't care which website has the best advertising. It cares which website is the most honest and the most truthful. And that's what LCR can provide that no other solution on the market is able to right now.
So how do you like to evaluate the honesty of those are ads? Is there any, like, I think the standards are like it's a computing like technology thing, or it's you have certain standards?
So it's pure math.
Oh, it's
Um,
pure.
yeah. Like what we're doing is um, crawling the web, and with 2 million nodes right now,
Mhm.
we can crawl. Actually, the amount of data that the network is crawling is enough to train ChatGPT on a daily basis. It's a lot of data. Um, However, at 50 to 100 million nodes, the network will be able to crawl the entire internet on a daily basis and then build knowledge graphs of all the different sources on the internet. And then using similarity metrics, which are all just mathematical equations, um, they can actually evaluate which website will give the best response to any prompt, regardless of things like I mentioned earlier, like advertising. It would basically be on semantics, and that's what we call like an honesty metric.
Yeah, because I don't know anything about mathematics, but I think that's very important to me as a customer. So
Mhm.
yes, I need to know I'm not being manipulated,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the incentives. So what kind of the incentive you give to your contributors, and how are the users being encouraged to participate in or validate the web data?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, in terms of how users can participate, it's a at the moment it's a fully passive network. All you have to do is install a node, and it does everything for you in the background. However, we are evaluating um, because our community, like even though it's a passive application, they're very active. So we are evaluating ways for them to participate more actively. So we'll be putting out a few more consumer-facing applications, and I think the first one's actually going to be using LCR. So keep an eye out for that. Now, in terms of incentives, up until now, we've been building the network, we've had our heads down, and everyone that's joined has been contributing to making sure the network is robust. And having all these millions of people join so early, it's been amazing because we've been able to run so many stress tests on the network and make sure it works very well. And in exchange for that, users who participated up till now, they're receiving an airdrop, and that's been announced. But that's the airdrops, like that's not the point of downloading Grass.
Yes.
Those are basically a reward for being early.
Yeah.
Longer term, what we're really excited about is turning on bandwidth monetization. So when a very big company goes and uses LCR, for example, if your bandwidth is being used to query the information that that big company needs, you can actually earn rewards for that. And that's what we're excited about because then it's, this constant stream where people just turn this thing on in the background and they don't have to worry about it.
What kind of the rewards they can get? Uh, did you like elaborate more? Oh, is there any news that about the next few months or this year, what the huge milestone incoming you want to share with our audience?
Absolutely. So there will be a Grass Android app. So a lot of people know that there's already a Saga app, the Solana phone. The Android app is coming out as well after the network launches. We're also working on a hardware device for consumers. And the first LCR product, or the first product that uses LCR, will give Grass users the ability to beta test it. So keep an eye out for that. Like if you've installed Grass, you'll have the chance to try out the first application that uses LCR. And there are a few other things as well, but keep an eye out for those.
Enough today. And even if I don't have any like computing background, I can understand the necessity and of the LCR technology and the Grass projects. So do you have any last like messages you want to send to our audience, or any informations that you want to share at last?
Definitely. One thing I want to say to the audience is, if you are a Grass user, thank you so much for joining the network. We are immensely grateful for every single person that has joined the network, because without the people, the network is nothing. And if you are not a Grass user, we have an amazing community. We will happily welcome anyone to the Grass community with open arms. And yeah, keep an eye out for some of the roadmap mentions roadmap products that I mentioned, such as the box that we'll be putting out, like the hardware device, as well as some of the other applications.
Okay, I think that's enough for our today's podcast. So thank you so much, Andrea, joining us today. And if you have any updates or any like new coming like exciting news, we'll come back anytime.
Absolutely, will do. And thank you once again for having me. This was great.
Thank you so much, and have a great night.